Welcome to the Gentleman's Guide to Gaming. The board game before you is Aliens, the official board game tie-in to the 1986 James Cameron movie of the same name. Now, this game was released in 1989 by Leading Edge Games, and it is without shadow of a doubt the finest board game I have ever played. It captures the tone, the setting, the tension of the movie exactingly, and you play the protagonists of the movie throughout the game. In this particular scenario, we take on the role of the Colonial Marines, so everyone from Drake to Hicks to Apone, the cigar-chomping sergeant. And our purpose is to get the Colonial Marines from the right-hand side of the reactor room, in this particular scenario, to the exit on the other side. So far, so snakes and ladders, I hear you cry. Well, the thing that's standing in their way is not just the physical obstructions that you can see around the place, including the massive great stairwell there, but also aliens. Aliens will be dropping into the room, either coming through the walls, out of the ceiling, out of the floor, and impeding the progress of our Colonial Marines, trying to prevent them from getting to that exit. And they will be wounding, incapacitating, and killing our Colonial Marines. Now, Colonial Marines can move dependent on the number of actions they have on their character card. They can basically move 2 or 3 turns, depending on which characters they are, and each turn a certain number of aliens will drop into the fray. So on the first one it's 4, and then it's 2 every turn thereafter. So the map can get very full of aliens very, very quickly. Now, with the Colonial Marines, I think I'll show you Hicks. For instance, Hicks can have 3 actions, which means he can move 1, let's say, aim twice, and then fire. If he decides to aim twice and fire his shotgun, and an alien's at a range of 2, let's say, he needs to get a 9 or lower on a d10 in order to hit. If he aims once, and the alien's 2 away, he needs to get below a 6. Apone, for instance, has the same sort of thing, but with his flame units, which will of course give him various different benefits and drawbacks. Frost has a puny pistol, which has much less of a range, and also the accuracy isn't particularly good. And then we have Vasquez, who has a machine gun, which has an immense amount of range, and she also has a decent stat in melee as well, which is very good when actually getting into combat with these aliens. Now, we want to determine where the aliens will appear, so we want to roll a d10. Hello. And the first alien will appear on row 3, so let's find row 3. If we just zoom in now, there's row 3, and if we roll a d10 again, it will be in cell 3. Okay, so we can see the number 3 there, and we put a xenomorph on that square. All aliens can take 4 actions a turn, which essentially means they can move 4 spaces, while our poor Colonial Marines can only move 2 or 3 at maximum, and that's if they're not shooting. So you can't just run blindly for the exit unless you want the vast majority of your Colonial Marines to be taken out, and to be honest, all of them will be taken out if you just run. It is a game of some tactical prowess. You need to know where to put your men with where you put Hicks, for instance, is very important because he has both melee and a decent weapon. Where you put your units with your flame units is also very important, but the most important are Drake and Vasquez, in my opinion, who have the machine guns, weapons with the longest range. Now, you can apply optional rules to the game as well, where, for instance, if you apply the Dietrich rule, I don't know whether you recall Dietrich from the movie, but when she was grabbed by an alien, she uncontrollably fired her flamethrower and it immolated one of the other Colonial Marines. You can apply such rules in the game, so if your Colonial Marine with a flamethrower is grabbed by an alien, then he is forced to basically almost immolate one of the other Colonial Marines in the nearby vicinity. We'll just have Drake attack that xenomorph, just to give you an example of combat. We'll spend 1 of his action points, he only has 2, to move 1 square to the left, a bit close to the exit, although not by much. And with his 1 remaining action point, we'll roll to hit. And we need to get below, I think it was a 6, and there you go, we roll a 0. So, yep, the alien's 2 squares away, aim once, target 2, excellent. So that xenomorph is no more. He has exploded into a shower of pulp. cleared the way a bit on the northern flank. So that is essentially the run of the game. I'll show you a few more scenarios in a little bit. Okay, I thought I'd start recording again here. You can play this game single player or with friends, of course. You can play for as many friends as you have to take on Colonial Marines, but single player is good fun as well. Unfortunately, it was a bit of a massacre recently. Crow, Bowski and Dietrich all died, and Frost was incapacitated. Hudson, fortunately, with his pistol, was capable of destroying the alien that had incapacitated Frost, but now there's another alien in the square adjacent to Frost, so what we want to do is see whether Vasquez, yep, she's got the range on the alien in order to kill him. So I say that she should aim for 2 rounds, sod it, and roll to hit. There's absolutely no way in which she can really miss. Well, I don't know. There's 4 squares, so let's see. Let's roll and see whether she can actually destroy the alien. Yep, another 0. Oh no, is that a 0? No. Yep, it was. Okay, and there's that xenomorph gone. But here's a complication. Anyone who's familiar with the Aliens franchise will know that shooting an alien up close will result in acid spray. They have highly potent acid for blood. So we need to roll another d10 to see what the effect is on the adjacent Colonial Marine. None in this case. But if I had rolled a 0, as well as saving Frost briefly, the acid would have also dissolved him into mush. So what else can we be doing? Well, I think Hudson has 2 action points, so we will move him forward 2 squares in order to pick up the incapacitated Frost, because if we can get Hudson and Frost through to the next scenario, then Frost will be awake again and able to help us out. Interestingly, if you go through the entire game and allow Marines to be taken away incapacitated, you can then do a sort of last stand, let's take out the bitch kind of thing, and send all of the surviving Colonial Marines back in with decent weaponry, and basically you can free all your incapacitated colleagues, which is quite a good fun mission in and of itself, but it's also incredibly difficult. Apone doesn't run the risk of getting acid spray because he has a flame unit, and with a roll of 1 he successfully immolates that xenomorph. Now, I will proceed with the game without recording, and should anything else of interest pop up, I will start recording again. But you can see the way this sort of game goes. Gradually your ranks will get picked off if you don't defend them well enough. So it's a shame Crow and Wizbowski are gone, but they're not forgotten. Here's an interesting point. Using the optional Frost rule, Frost was a Colonial Marine unfortunate enough to be set on fire and he fell down the massive stairwell. If you're tackled adjacent to the stairwell by an alien and you're using the Frost rule, providing if you roll 7 or above, unfortunately Drake did, you will be knocked down the stairwell and killed. You'll take the alien with you, of course. But that means Drake, one of our machine gunners, a very useful unit, is unfortunately out of the game. So say goodbye to Drake. Goodbye. Now, this is the exit part. As you can see, everyone's huddled around the exit. I was having Hicks and Vasquez cover Hudson because he's got a very... Well, he can only move 2 actions a turn, but Hudson is very close to being caught by the aliens, and he can only move 2 squares, so he can't get through the exit. So it's a bit of a tricky one. Now, Vasquez can shoot through aliens. The machine gun has a high enough caliber bullet to basically cut through multiple aliens if they're in her line of sight. So let's see what happens come the next scenario. Well, we made it, Hudson made it, and he made it with Frost in tow. So in the next scenario, which is the control room, what we also have Lieutenant Gorman with us by this point, or Lieutenant Gorman, depending on where you're from. We also have Ripley and Newt, and Carter Burke, the filthy cad working for the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. At the start of this round, Burke will use all of his actions to get through that door that he's on the other side of there, and he will lock it behind him, basically preventing anyone else from escaping. And once you reach the B on the counter for the control room scenario, then he will hide in the Medi Bay, which is that little sort of cupboard there. So the only way you can actually unlock that door is by using any of the Marines, such as Frost and Vasquez. So it's indispensable that you get at least one or two of them through to this part, to open the door with a welding torch. A cutting torch, rather. And after that point, you need to make your way through the vents, which is largely single file, and you have to be led by Newt, who is useless in a combat, but the only person who can actually lead you through the ventilation shaft. If she's dead, the game's pretty much over by this point. And each round on the Operation and Air Ducts scenario, you get the number of aliens that you can see landing in the corresponding colour squares. So let's go back over here, and you can see the red square, red numbered squares, you've got the grey ones, and so forth. So, on this scenario, the Colonial Marines and any other characters are using the second row of weaponry. And of course, we also have the character cards of, hang on, I'll just take that away, of Newt. As it says there, she has to guide them through, and at each decision square she has to roll a die in order to know where to go. Ripley has the pulse rifle during this round, and she's also a pretty good character to have on the team. She needs to be with Newt, I believe, so you need to have her survive. Gorman is absolutely useless, really, and Burke is a great hindrance as well. You can throw in the optional rule, which I think is called Bugger Burke, which is you throw a grenade in his vicinity as he's running down towards the door, so you basically waste him before he locks it. There are also character cards for characters who wouldn't have actually shown up at this part of the film, like Spunkmeyer, who has a fantastic name, Ferro, the dropship pilot, and also Bishop. So you can make up your own scenarios using these characters, or you can buy the Aliens expansion. Well, you would have been able to if it wasn't out of print, and use some of the optional scenarios that involve them. So the other options, you can throw in games with face huggers, and there's a card for an alien, a larger card. You can set up sentry turrets like in the director's cut version of the movie. And in all, there is so much customizability to this game. It's untrue, it is actually that ranged, that good, that it provides you with extra material that you don't actually need for the main game, and it's just such a shame that it's out of print. In this scenario, the control room itself fills up with aliens so quickly. This is far more difficult than the reactor room part, which is difficult in and of itself. And of course, finally, you will end up facing the Queen. Once you've got your way through the vents, you have to play as Ripley, and one-on-one you can do the Queen parts where you're in the Attack's lifter machine, which is again quite difficult, and drop her out of the airlock there on the right. So you need to do various manoeuvres. As you can see, you have various different things on different rolls. You will like swipe with your hand, or you can try and grab the alien queen and then move her towards the airlock and drop her out of it. So that's the Aliens board game. It is so good in terms of tension. No word of a lie. As more and more Marines get picked off as you're going through it, it becomes such a vital exercise trying to keep as many as you can alive. It just sums up the movie superbly. Even the shape of the ventilation shaft, in some ways, it seems to resemble, and of course, the debris, the scenario around the control room, is modelled on that of the film. I can't fault this game. It is absolutely excellent. If anyone has a new copy that they want to sell me, let me know, because this is a brilliant game.